क्यों तोड़ा?
हमने नहीं तोड़ा, मैं पोस्टमैन हूँ।
क्यों तोड़ा? और क्या किया उसने?
Cheers. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the fourth episode of We Talk a Lot, where I, Akshay Pai, and
Hi, Bhumesh Bellam.
we talk about the legal aspect of different news and current affairs and share our opinion regarding the same. Today is the fourth episode, and the topic for today is trial by media.
It's an extremely interesting topic, especially now because it's so relevant. So, in today's episode, we are going to talk about the freedom of press, the rights of an accused, what is a fair trial, the various norms of the Press Council of India, and various other agencies, authorities, and other relevant laws which guide the press in India.
It started off as the inquisitiveness of our public to know what is happening, but it has resulted into something which is colloquially known as trial by media. And after a point where we have reached today, I think that legally it is something that we both need to really discuss. So, what is a trial by media, and what is the relevance of speaking about this today?
So first, let's start with what is freedom of press. Now,
Yeah.
Article 19(1)(a) of the Constitution of India talks about
Yeah.
the freedom of speech. The Supreme Court, time and again, has said in the judgment of Sakal Papers versus Union of India, freedom of speech includes the right to know, and the right to know also includes the freedom of press. So indirectly, freedom of speech does include freedom of press.
Media or the press is the fourth estate. They are the watchdogs of the democracy. They are the observers of the democracy. They provide the information to the public, to the citizenry. They end up keeping checks and bounds on the democratic process. So they're a very essential part, and there's no denying about it. And everyone is aware about this. No one wants to curb these rights.
In India, have the concept of open court. So it's so essential for the press to come out and give out this news to the people so that they know what happens in the court, because we are a part of a democracy.
But what has happened actually is, in the process of actually telling the news and kind of investigating it for the public, I think there's something which has arisen, which is a trial conducted by the media.
The court in our country
Yeah.
have an entire procedure set up to try a particular accused. Now that procedure we call as a fair trial.
Yeah.
Especially in a country, in a common law country, where every person is innocent until proven guilty. The procedure established by law, firstly to be followed, is very essential. Now what happens in trial by media, it comes in between of this procedure to be followed. So what happens is, trial by media is the point where the media tries to hamper the administration of justice. Right to fair trial is also a fundamental right. Article 21 of our constitution, which talks about right to life and liberty, also includes a right to fair trial, and a right to fair trial also includes a right to fair investigation. So I feel that when there is a fundamental right of an accused to have a fair trial, and if some other agency such as the media here is hampering that fundamental right, what happens then when there is a conflict between two fundamental rights?
See, a media trial per se is not wrong. Every media trial cannot be wrong. There have been good media trials. Because of media trials, you've come to a sort of truth of matter. But there should be a line drawn. And while we speak about that, if you list out, there are so many fundamental rights which could be violated. Like you rightly said, right to fair trial. There's right to fair investigation also. What about the right to privacy? Every citizen has a right to privacy, right to reputation. Apart from that, before you talk about Article 21, comes Article 20. Article 20, which is a fundamental right, also says right against self-incrimination. Basically, no one has a right to be compelled to speak against themselves or be a witness against themselves. This also can get violated because of trial by media.
Interestingly, in the judgment of Sahara, what was said was, if there is a conflict between rights of an accused under Article 21 and the freedom of press under Article 19, rights of an accused under Article 21 will prevail and will act as a reasonable restriction to the freedom of speech in Article 19. Along with that, in addition, even Guideline 41A of the norms of journalism, which we will come to shortly, also say that if there is a conflict, a right to fair trial will always prevail over a freedom of press.
At the end of the day, even when you read 19 and 21, 19 is always subject to the reasonable restrictions provided under 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever it might be the case. But 21 is absolute. A trial by media cannot be jeopardizing the rights of an accuser, right to a fair trial.
Now, let's come to what does a trial by media, how does it impact the rights of an accused? Now, as I already said that there's a procedure established by law, what I want to say is if there is prejudgment by the media, it will lead to side effects. Now,
Yeah.
if people are made to believe that truth is so easily found, then people won't look for the courts to give justice. They will look for the media channels to give justice, and that will be a travesty of justice. So, firstly, police can be influenced. Police might
Yeah.
be coerced or forced into arresting people quickly. Police might be forced to look into a direction where the media is looking into instead of having an open mind for investigation. So that is the first. Secondly, it also creates problems for witnesses. Like if witnesses are called up on news channels and asked questions, we in India do not have any witness protection program per se. So when you're exposing these witnesses in open in national television, you are basically endangering and jeopardizing their lives because they can be easily threatened and tampered with by the accused. Thirdly, if you show the face of an accused in on the news channel, there is a procedure of test identification parade. So if the person has already seen that, then that procedure is infructuous. Then comes confession. Now in India, under Section 25 of the Evidence Act, the confession given by an accused is inadmissible. Now, when that confession is shown on national television and is seen by multiple people, that confession itself will prejudice the minds of the judges, of the people already.
Yeah.
One more thing would be recovery. Now, what do you mean by recovery? Under Section 27 of the Evidence Act, if a particular thing or for example a murder weapon is to be recovered from the accused, then only it will be admissible. But if the media itself produces the murder weapon and says that this is the murder weapon, that has zero evidentiary value because that would not be recovery under Section 27 by the accused and cannot be used against him then. So these are all the problems which the accused might face. Now, along with this, the accused's right to file for bail, for anticipatory bail, gets prejudiced because the case is all out already. Before a charge sheet is filed, all the documents are prepared and preserved in a case diary by the police. And this case diary is not privy to anybody except for the prosecution and the judge. Even the accused has no right to view this. This, in fact, is in Section 172 of the Criminal Procedure Code, where there's a clear bar that the accused or the agents of the accused cannot have access to these documents.
At the end of the day, it is all about making sure that the procedure is followed. Obviously, the judges aren't immune to the news and what is happening, the public opinion. They are also human at the end of the day. Therefore, there's another very essential right, not only the right of the accused, but the right of us as citizens of the country to have a fair trial. What I mean is that most of us are aware that Indian criminal trial is conducted by the state. It is prosecuted by the state just to make sure that the accused are convicted and sent to prison or punished. Now, today, when there is already a verdict being passed by the public and the whole evidence and the investigation is tampered with, and because of all of this, it won't result into a conviction of a person who's accused. For example, in this case, suppose everyone has already passed a verdict against Ria, and because of that, entire evidence is tampered, and by the end of it, Ria is acquitted. It's all wasted because of all the trial by media. Many people ask me this query: so what? So what is the trial by media? We want to know. This so what is answered by these things we're discussing right now, that it prejudices the entire criminal justice system.
But at the same time, I feel like
Yeah.
trial by media can also be good and essential. For example, in the case of Jessica Lal, but the case was basically where this politician's son, Manu Sharma, was accused of killing the bartender, and he was acquitted by the trial court, but because of the media enraged, judgment of the trial court was taken up in the High Court in appeal and was overturned by the High Court. So I feel the media had to play a very important role in that case.
You know, in fact, this has happened before, this trial by media, and a very interesting example. This wasn't exactly a trial by media, the trial by media comes sting operation. And what had happened very interestingly in 2007, a school teacher of a public school, of a government school, was accused basically taking up students and putting them for prostitution, basically in human trafficking. That was the accusation. And on the basis of this accusation, some news channel basically conducted a sting operation against this teacher where they caught her red-handed putting up a student for human trafficking. And this was there was a crazy outrage because obviously this being a very sensitive and serious issue, the teacher was not only removed from the school and her whole life was ruined, social life, she was even lynched by a mob in 2007. And it became very serious, but entire trial by media was conducted. conducted. But when the police actually began to investigate into this, turns out this entire sting operation was a fraud. A student was allegedly being, during the sting operation, allegedly being put into human trafficking was actually a reporter. And because of this entire incident, Ms. Uma Khurana was the teacher. She was nothing happened to her. She was set free. She had to file a defamation case against the media. But imagine, like, for 2 years her life was ruined, yeah. And this trial by media basically conducted against her. The sting operation was a complete bogus, but people had already formed and made up their mind against it. And this even happened in the Arushi Talwar case. We have movies on all this. People are aware of this. People have seen trial by media being conducted. They've seen the disadvantages, the violation of human and fundamental rights happening because of this. While chasing the truth, they end up forgetting what is the actual legal position.
Now that brings us to the current situation. What is happening in the case
Yeah.
of Riya Chakrabarti? Now, what has
Yeah.
happened in Riya Chakrabarti is that the media has shown witnesses, the media has shown evidence in form of WhatsApp
Yeah.
chats, the media has shown post-mortem reports, the media has shown literally everything possibly which is a privileged document of the police. And that's why there was a petition in the Bombay High Court complaining about this media trial being
Yeah.
conducted. And all that the Bombay High Court said was that they urged all these media persons to kind of follow all the guidelines and norms by the Press Council of India, by the other guiding agencies of the press. And because they passed such an order, because they realized that something is wrong.
And what these norms are very clear. In fact, these guidelines specifically lay down and provide for what and how the media should conduct itself and present news. The interesting part of this episode is, and I think credit goes to you, Bhumesh, that we can actually show that how the media or how the press has actually violated these guidelines, direct violation. Interestingly, we have something called the Press Council of India, which has been, it's a body, it's a statutory body formed under Press Council of India Act 1978, and it kind of regulates the entire press in our country. Obviously that time there wasn't too much news media broadcasting. It was mainly newspapers, so most of these guidelines are regarding newspapers, but they deal with the press and media in general as well, which includes our news broadcasters. PCI has specific and detailed guidelines, and these guidelines deal with every situation, like you said, suicide, like you said, journalistic norms. Although it is a matter of debate actually, and it's not really settled, it's not even very clear from the statute, and I've read the statute thoroughly, we both have, that whether firstly do TV news channels fall under this Press Council Act, because originally it was formed to regulate press as a newspaper, print media. But as our country has developed, as the news agencies have developed, there are also TV news channels which form under the press per se. So it is still a matter of debate whether a TV news channel is a news agency as per the Press Council of India Act. Any which way, we should discuss these norms because they deal with the press, and even if they aren't binding on a TV news channel, they are something which I believe every TV news channel must kind of adhere to, in light of maintaining, every journalist should maintain and adhere to, because in order to maintain some sort of public decency, morality, and to protect the rights of an accused and the rights of every citizen to a fair investigation and trial.
So the first one being right to privacy. Now, right to
Yeah.
privacy, there's a direct norm in guideline number 6, which say that the press shall not intrude or invade the privacy of an individual unless outweighed by
Yeah.
genuine and overriding public interest. Now, how they explain privacy is that person's home, family, personal life, private affairs, except where any of these impinges upon the public or public interest. That is termed as privacy. They've defined it. Now, we come to guideline 7, which talks about privacy of public figures. Now, what they say is only if the acts are of genuine public interest may be brought to the public knowledge. Now, they've said that public interest is different from of interest to public. Now, what they mean is that what is in public interest is not always what interests the public and vice versa. One more thing which they've added there is that the family of public figures are not valid journalistic subjects.
सर आप कुछ कहना चाहेंगे? आपका बेटा अरेस्ट हुआ है ड्रग्स पैडलिंग में। सर आप कुछ कहना चाहेंगे?
मैं आपको एक बात बोल रहा हूँ, इज्जत से समझ जाना, प्लीज गेट आउट।
And this is what happened exactly. Even that picture where Riya was hounded by the journalist.
Invasion of private space, especially she's a woman.
Under 21 of these norms, no sort of provocative or sensational headlines can be published. reading this with 41A2, which reads as the media reports should not induce the general public to believe in the complicity of the person indicted, as such kind of action brings undue pressure on the course of fair investigation by the police. So you cannot even publish headlines which are trying to hamper or influence the investigation agencies or the courts. And we literally had headlines like these where they're kind of starting campaigns which are totally against the rights of a person, trying to prejudice the minds of the investigation agencies.
Then the next one is Guideline 26F, which talks about reporters must not approach the matter or the issue under investigation in a manner as though he were the prosecutor or counsel for the prosecution. And
क्या उनकी कोई मानसिक बीमारी थी? Who was giving the medication? Who was giving the medication?
Yeah, yes.
What tablets? 8 तारीख और 14 तारीख के बीच में कौन-कौन घर में आए थे?
And this was just a snippet. The video went on for half an hour.
And this is a big issue because he's conducting a full-fledged trial, a cross-examination.
And he's a witness because he's Sushant's flatmate. So
I'm
obviously he's a
sure.
witness because he was present.
Yeah,
at that
he
point.
will be.
Next we come to reporters' approach should be fair and balanced. The tone and tenor of the report and its language should be sober, decent and dignified and not needlessly offensive, barbed, derisive, particularly while commenting on the versions of the person whose alleged activity or misconduct is being investigated.
रिया चक्रवर्ती बोलती है ड्रग दो ड्रग दो ड्रग दो ड्रग दो ड्रग दो मुझे ड्रग दो मुझे ड्रग्स दो वो कहती है मुझे ड्रग दो मेरे लिए गांजा लाओ चरस लाओ एमडीएमए लाओ एक्सक्यूसी लाओ अरे वहां पे प्रमाण है उसके पास अरे ड्रगी कौन है रिया चक्रवर्ती ड्रगी है
Sober, decent, dignified, not at all.
No, and this is not trying to make a rant out of it, a joke out of it, but again, these kind of campaigns are a major issue. What has this resulted in? Nothing. Apart from this, 41A is very essential for our conversation regarding these norms. It talks about trial by media. Very interestingly, 5 talks about while media's reporting at the investigation stage in a criminal case may ensure a speedy and fair investigation, disclosure of confidential information may also hamper or prejudice investigation. There cannot therefore be an unrestricted access to all the details of the investigation. Basically, there should be some sort of confidentiality.
सुशांत की खुदकुशी की पहली आधिकारिक जानकारी उनकी पोस्टमार्टम रिपोर्ट से ही मिली। 5 डॉक्टरों की टीम ने पोस्टमार्टम किया है और बताया है कि दम घुटने की वजह से उनकी जान गई है। ये पूरी रिपोर्ट एबीपी न्यूज के पास मौजूद है।
And this is exactly what we spoke in the beginning of confidential documents not to be disclosed. Under section 172, subsection 3 of the Criminal Procedure Code, there is a specific bar to show this to any person except for the prosecutor and except to the judge, not even the prosecutor, except to the judge. Even the accused or any agents of the accused do not have the right. And here, they are so proudly saying that ABP News is the first one to show this to the world. And this exact behavior, this exact thing is what we call prejudicial to a fair trial.
In addition to this, something which has happened, which has been violated blatantly and which has been happening daily for TRP, I'm sure, was violation of 41A, 6 and 7. And I'll just read what 6 and 7 say. They speak for themselves. Victim, witnesses, suspects and accused should not be given excessive publicity as it amounts to invasion of their privacy rights. Further, 7. Identification of witnesses by the newspapers, medias endanger them to come under pressure from both the accused or his associates as well as investigative agencies. Thus, media should not identify the witnesses as they may turn hostile, succumbing to the pressure. I don't think anyone read this, or I don't know why, because this is what happened.
संदीप सिंह, जिससे सीबीआई ने भी बीते दिन पूछताछ की है, वो इस वक्त हमारे साथ सीधा जुड़ रहे हैं आज तक पर। संदीप सिंह, मेरा पहला सवाल आपसे यही, 14 जून को क्या हुआ था और तमाम सवालों के साथ सीबीआई ने आपको कल इंटरोगेट किया है। उन्होंने आपसे क्या-क्या पूछा, आपने उनको क्या जवाब दिया और ये नौबत कैसे आई कि आपको भी पूछताछ के लिए बुलाया गया, आप पर शक हुआ?
These are witnesses whose statements have been taken by the investigating agency. Now, these statements are inadmissible And now these people's statement will be tried and tested in trial. Now what happens when they come to the media? The media is putting words into their mouths. Will they even remember what the reality was when they actually go to court and depose? There's so much pressure on them. We don't know what happens backdoors of these news channels. Like, they want people to say things in certain ways. Now that apart, now this witness is exposed in open. Now everybody knows who he is. Everybody knows what his statements are. Right now, if he goes and tells something else in court, which may be the truth, but people will never believe that because he's already said something else in the news channel. So this is what exactly, again, as we said, is prejudicial to a fair trial. They've examined the locksmith. They've examined the people who are in the morgue. They've examined the people who drove the ambulance when the dead body was taken. They have literally examined every possible witness in the case. They have no idea about what fair trial is. They have no idea about evidence. So they will just say anything which would please the media. For all you know, media themselves could tamper with such witnesses to create sensationalization of the news so that their TRP increases. So this is preposterous. One media channel cannot do this. It is so prejudicial to the rights of an accused and a fair trial.
Yeah. I mean, see, honestly, we are also being a little too vocal about it, and we are being very kind of aggressive regarding the norms. There are many follies and vacuums, you can say, regarding these norms, and we'll discuss that also. But at the end of the day, it is what we as a society should kind of want and look forward to and look up to, especially in the fourth estate of a democracy like ours. And therefore, we also have to take a stand against it. Apart from these guidelines, there are specific guidelines by the PCI regarding suicide. How a news agency or a news paper is supposed to report a suicide. And I'll read them out. There are 4 guidelines mainly, 4 directions you can say. Firstly, they must not place stories about suicide prominently and unduly repeat such stories. Use the language which sensationalize or normalize suicide or presents it as a constructive solution to problems. Explicitly describe the method used. Provide details about the site location. Use sensational headlines. Use photograph, video footage or social media links. So directly they say that you cannot constantly report suicide, talk about it, sensationalize it. And we literally had news channels showing the dead body, the location of the suicide, the way he committed suicide, the kurta which was used by him allegedly. Leaving aside the prejudice caused the trial and violation of fundamental rights of the citizens, but these are direct violation of these guidelines.
That's why. What about these guidelines? How much can these guidelines be implemented? And what happens if one violates these guidelines? What are the repercussions? Are there any?
Yeah, so in fact, that's very interesting. Like I said before, the law is not it's a little ambiguous about whether news TV channels are included in it. Assuming they are, or assuming any sort of violation takes place about these guidelines, there's a direct provision under Section 14 of the PCI Act where you can file a complaint to the PCI. The problem arises here, and therefore where I call the PCI a toothless and a clawless tiger, because they cannot really penalize these news agencies for these things. There's no real enforceability. These guidelines are more of advisory or somewhat guidelines, I say. They aren't enforceable. Then the principles more than duties or obligations, and therefore even after filing the complaint, at the most the result would be the news agency or news paper will be admonished or like censured or like at the most kind of warned, ask for apologies,
which is the rate of most of these complaints. In fact, that's why interestingly, in 2007 there was a case in the Supreme Court called Ajay Goswami versus Union of India. What the Supreme Court held was that punitive powers should be given to PCI, and they urged the government of India to make such amendments in the interest of public interest. Supreme Court has also recognized that the PCI, the Press Council of India, does not have enough powers to regulate these bodies. What's the point of having guidelines and no punitive action taken against those, where someone is directly violating those guidelines just by asking for an apology upon a complaint which will be heard by both sides, etc., long procedure. After that, just an apology. Should we leave it at that? When the loss, on the other hand, is rights of an accused being prejudiced, the court procedures being prejudiced, the rights of fair trial being prejudiced and jeopardized. What happens to the integrity of the court? What happens to justice? Is justice what happens on media channels? No, it's not.
Having said this, suppose the question arises, if these PCI guidelines aren't applicable or they aren't really kind of strong enough to protect the rights, or what other laws are there? There's also the Cable TV Act, 1995, Cable TV Channels Act. Also, there's a private agency, an association called the News Broadcasters Association, which is basically a body, doesn't have any statutory backing, but it is formed as a self-regulatory body by all these private news channels, and they have these self-regulatory functions where they have these basic ethics and guidelines and standards of ethics to be maintained by these news broadcasters who are members of this association. And if they violate it, surprisingly, this NBA has stronger powers than the PCI in my opinion. But again, because there's no statutory or legislative backing to this NBA, therefore they aren't again very enforceable. They are more like guidelines, and they kind of fall behind, or there's a lacuna being formed because of these. Even the cable TV guidelines, they also kind of prevent public interest from being harmed and so and so, but again, not very enforceable. There's a EMMC, the Electronic Media Monitoring Committee, again, not very strong guidelines to kind of protect these rights being violated. So at the end of the day, the issue which arises is that we need a stronger legislation to protect the rights.
And in addition, now that we spoke, there is one legislation which does punish, which is the Contempt of Courts Act. So Contempt of Courts Act is an exception to freedom of speech, and Contempt of Courts Act can punish someone for scandalizing the court or hampering the administration of justice. But the problem with that also, as we spoke in our previous episode, is that it comes to force only after the final report or charge sheet is filed in court. So anything which happens before filing of charge sheet, anything can be said about police, about investigation, about court procedures, nothing will come under the ambit of Contempt of Courts Act. So then what about fair trial? As we spoke, that fair trial includes fair investigation under Article 21, which is a absolute fundamental right. And fair investigation happens before a charge sheet is filed. So you have to curb the media even there. Now, by curbing the media, I do not mean to say that freedom of speech should be curbed. There are guidelines. I am only saying that these guidelines should be implemented in the interest of public and in the interest of justice. That's all.
Maybe it's not, we don't have a strong enough legislation to really cover all of the TV news channels, newspapers, all of the press as such. But having said that, the PCI guidelines still exist. Section 14 of the PCI Act provides a remedy of filing a complaint before the PCI. They have certain powers. NBA, the News Broadcasters Association, also you can file a complaint. Electronic Media Monitoring Committee is still a little weaker, but they also exist, so we can file complaints. Apart from that, like you said, contempt of court law, which we discussed in our second episode, it is pretty vast. If that doesn't apply, there's always the oldest of these remedies, which is defamation. Defamation is always available. Issue with defamation is expensive and time consuming, and not everyone can really afford. And then obviously, if your rights are being violated, you can always file a writ petition. You can always go to enforce your fundamental rights with the High Court and Supreme Court. But are we a country where we require the High Court to interpret and extend and evolve the concept of freedom of speech? Why can't we have legislations which kind of provide for it?
Especially when there are guidelines. The only thing is just make them stricter. That's about it. So that people will follow them. It shouldn't be it shouldn't be a namesake guideline. And with this, we come to the end of our outrage / rant / podcast, if you may call it. On this topic of trial by media. Hope you guys liked it. Please do share, subscribe, and like our channel.
Thank you guys. Like, share, subscribe. See you.